I would say like success for me, I define it as just like how happy I am with what I am doing. And I feel like whatever that is, I hope that it's just bigger than me, bigger than just like how much money I'm making, or
Absolutely.
or bigger than like how many likes or whatever something has. I think it's doing something that's bigger than myself that leaves an impact on others in a positive way. It's up to you. Like, you create your own definition as well.
Here, this is
Azeez Bakare.
Nice, and we're here on another episode of CanvasFab Conversations. Behind the scenes, we have Omar Shines, which is here with us today. We appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. The purpose of CanvasFab Conversations, just to give you a little bit of backstory, is so that we have a conversation. Azeez is a local that we met at one of Omar's insta-meets, and we've been chopping it up, and now we finally get to sit down and do a video together. So I appreciate the fact that you came. That we're here today, and we hope that all the information that we share will inspire you, motivate you, and also we'll be featuring Azeez's special collection that you can check out at CanvasFab.com, but we'll get into that. So Azeez, tell me about yourself.
So, my name is Azeez Bakare. I'm actually a 3D architectural visualizer and photographer and drone artist. But my background is actually in architecture. I studied architecture at The Ohio State University. I came to Miami based on a job opportunity. Been here for 5 years now, love it. But yeah, that's who I am. I'll tell you a little bit about like how I ended up into this industry.
Right. Well, the question would be, I guess, how did you first become a creative, or that backstory?
Yes. So growing up, I was actually born in New York, raised in Ohio. Last lived in Washington, D.C. And then I'm Nigerian, so I come from a Nigerian background. Growing up in high school, pretty much education was the number one thing for our family. So I knew that I was going to be going to college and go to finish high school and everything.
Right.
So I was just very interested. I got attached to hand drafting, so architecture was like the perfect study for me. I ended up doing a lot of hand drafting in high school, and I got into graphic design because like they kind of went together in terms of like using your hands to create. And so after high school, didn't know what I was gonna study in college, and I ended up just going with architecture and graphic design. So I wanted to major in one of those. And I got accepted into Ohio State, and actually went to the orientation for graphic design, but it was just way too conceptual for me. And so I switched from the first day to architecture. And then after going through the architecture program, that became too conceptual for me. So I just wanted to stick with something. So I stuck with architecture. And that became my field of study.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, you've been here for 5 years now, right? You said it was an opportunity for work. What have you, I guess, learned throughout this process, of leaving a particular place, starting somewhere else? Walk us a little bit through that process of what it took.
As a child, I was kind of used to the concept of like picking up and moving. I moved a lot when I was a kid. I went to 2 different high schools. After leaving Ohio for Washington, D.C., which was for my first job opportunity, for me, it wasn't that challenging because I knew that I would be leaving going towards something that I was passionate about.
Right.
So whenever the pattern is, advancing towards something that's for you, it's like the adversity, all of those things are making me better, because it's like I'm putting myself in a position where things aren't so perfect. I knew that I was just heading towards something that was for me.
Right.
So the challenge wasn't so much like picking up and going somewhere. It was more just like, how do I become like the best that I can be at this specific task?
Absolutely.
So most of that was just me trying to learn from my mentors, working a little bit extra hours just to improve my skill set, learning new skills, and that's actually how I got into photography.
Essentially, you invested in yourself, and you grew, or something was birthed out of that, which was your photography.
Exactly.
And so this is something, as a little side note, whatever it is that you're passionate about, continue to do it, because something will be born out of that passion. So whatever it is that you like to do, do it to the best of your ability, and invest in yourself. Look for a mentor, find classes. What can you learn? Life is all about a constant learning process, if you will.
Exactly. So I guess I would like to share about like what actual architectural visualization is, because I have a lot of friends who don't really know what I do, and they just see the visuals, so they think that they're photos,
right?
And so they're like, "Wow, you take good photos," but these creations, 3D visualization is really creating something from nothing. So, for example, an example project would be, okay, there's going to be a new building being put down in South Beach. And so people want to know what this looks like. They want to know like what the view is like from the penthouse, or they want to know like what's surrounding this new building that's about to be created. It needs to be approved by the city. So there's a lot of different uses for these visuals, as well as like investors may want to learn how to invest into these properties. What are they going to invest in? What is it going to look like? What's the quality of the materials and things like that? So with the renderings, we're actually working with architects, interior designers, developers, and we're creating these visuals so people know what the place will look like, what the spaces will look like, how you will feel in this space, telling the story of what an individual would go through living in this space, what's a day in the life of them. So a lot of these aspects are told by the renderings that we're creating. And now with technology, we're also creating animations as well.
Right.
And the main difference between like the companies and our company is that I am focused on quality and photorealism. So I've had the great opportunity to work at some amazing places to learn how to create the best renderings possible. Like my goal was always to just create the most photorealistic 3D renderings ever. And so, being able to start my business, and at this point, we're still focused on that. And, that's what makes what I'm doing different, I believe, because, the quality of materials, I'm a nerd when it comes to that. Like, I can look at anything and, see the reflection highlights, and you see the glossiness in the material, the bumps, the imperfections. And these are the things that make it more photorealistic.
Absolutely.
And so it's just passionate for me. I love doing this. And so the next time you see, like in a magazine, you might see like an image that looks real and is showcasing like a new property. Just understand like there's a lot of things that go behind creating that, from 3D modeling the furniture to the width of each mullion to the bump texture on a wood floor. There's a lot of different aspects that go into
so many
creating
details.
Yeah, a lot of details.
What are the primary programs that you use?
Yes, the primary programs that we're using to create these visualizations starts with like some AutoCAD or 3D Studio Max, a lot of Photoshop, and a rendering engine called Corona. There's another one called V-Ray, but we're more into the Corona one now. And then there's also another software called Unreal Engine, which is actually more for gaming, but we're using this tool to create more animations and VR experiences. The technology for our industry is insane now, and
amazing.
You can create some breathtaking experiences in reality with these tools. So
awesome. How much gear do you have?
So that's a good question. For me personally, I own a variety of tools. So I have, my biggest tool is my custom laptop, which actually made by a company here in South Florida called Origin PC. That thing is spec'd out. It's for me to create renderings on the go.
Right.
I do have a team, so we do create with each other. We collaborate with each other. But I'm the one like doing a lot of the rendering myself as well. So that's my main tool, along with these programs like Photoshop and Lightroom. In terms of equipment to create these visualizations, I'm using drones. I have a DJI Mavic 2 Pro and the DJI Mavic 1 as well. And new DSLR over there, Nikon Z6, which I'm using a lot as well.
Any parentheses or side note that you want to comment about that camera?
Oh, it's like, just get it. If you're a Nikon fan and you've been shooting with like full frame or crops, you know, the difference, being able to shoot with Nikon mirrorless is just breathtaking. I was so having to use Sony's until now I have the Nikon, which is great. What else do we have? Well, a lot of the other tools for a lot of the visualization, when I'm not shooting with the heavier equipment, I'll be using my Google Pixel 3 XL. Camera's amazing on that. I'm really a less is more type of person. Like I'm focused on quality, so I want to have less tools, but that have a bigger impact. So those are like my main tools that I'm using to create personally and for the business as well. So
awesome.
I guess I'll share about how I got into photography. From my architecture background, I moved to Washington D.C. Worked for an architecture firm called HOK, international architecture firm, very good. And so being hired there, I was hired to be a 3D visualization specialist.
Which, by the way, you're an extreme specialist.
Thank you. And so I was there for about 3 years, but there was a moment where they needed someone to start taking photos of the buildings, and there was no one, ready to do it. And I was like, why not? Let me try. Didn't know how a camera worked, so I used the office camera, went on site, captured photos, came back, and all of my photos were blue. So I didn't know what white balance was at the time. So that's how it started. The company invested in me to take courses to learn photography. So that's when I started to get into it, and I understood that it's more than just pressing a button.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, you have composition, lighting, X, Y, Z.
So many things. And I just really love that, every aspect of photography, from like exposure to ISO to shutter speed, I like the fact that each one of those aspects will affect the other in terms of creating your ultimate exposure. And so for me, having like the architecture background and loving math, photography was amazing for me because I could see, the numbers in my head and how to, switch these numbers up to create a different exposure.
Right.
So it just brings in a lot more experimentation.
Absolutely. What's been your, challenging or most humbling experience, if you will, throughout this process of you being a creative?
I'll say like the most humbling is the fact that I have a business and a team now where we get to create and that people are investing in these creations. I never dreamt that, people would invest in art or like a story that just comes from nothing.
Right.
I'm thinking, most people who invest in things, they're usually just like objects or, things that serve a specific purpose, like tools and, things like that. So for someone to invest in like a creative, artistic creation, that means a lot to me. That I'm able to live a life and share what I'm creating, to live well and continue doing these things because people are investing and companies are investing into what we're creating.
Right.
It means a lot.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about your collection and the work that you're releasing. What, motivated you to really put your work out there or just inspire you to begin this journey? Yeah,
absolutely. I've always been a creator. Since leaving high school, I've always wanted to create. But through that process, I always knew that, I was very focused on quality and I only wanted to put the best quality out there.
Yeah.
Until recently, like within the last few years, I started to get into Instagram and, Facebook and things like that, sharing my work. And, there was just something in me that I felt that I wasn't really sharing enough.
Right.
So I actually challenged myself to just share every day, because I have so much content. It was really for myself to just be able to give people inspiration that we're all have the ability to create. We all can share things. Nothing needs to be perfect.
Right.
So I got into it by doing the 365-day challenge for myself. And from that, so many opportunities have come from just doing that.
You wanted to challenge yourself because you felt you weren't sharing enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how did you overcome that? Like, because I'm sure, there was a conversation that happens in your mind often of what is it that I share?
Yeah.
Or what should I say? And sometimes when you have so much content, I'm sure it could become overwhelming.
Yeah.
So how was it that you determined
Yeah, so I really determined what I wanted to share because I really just decided to share things that I like personally.
Right.
I'm very into architecture, as you guys know now. I was into details, interiors, a lot of the things that I'm doing with the 3D visualization.
Right.
So I wanted to share a lot of those type of imagery, a lot of those type of photos, drone photography, which was more recently, but that has come about because of the 3D architectural visualization. So we have that, interiors, detail shots with nice depth of field, architecture, and those are things that I really like to share.
Right.
So I'm always figuring myself or seeing myself capture those type of visuals, and so I decided, like, why don't I just curate this, to have some sort of like gallery where people are seeing the things that I like to share.
Right.
In addition to that, photos of myself so people know who's the one capturing these. And then also a caption with all of these visuals because I want people to think about what I had in my head when I was capturing this and what the photo reminds me of. And that's all part of like the sharing process. And again, like from just sharing every single day, that gave me so much more than I imagined to receive. Like not just from like people's comments telling me, like you inspired me to do this. That's amazing to receive that. And also receiving opportunities from companies because they're seeing like the interactions that are going on with these visuals, and opportunities like even with my phone, I'm now shooting with Team Pixel, Google Pixel. So they provided me with the last 2 phones that I've owned because of just wanting to share. You know?
Right.
So a lot has come about just through wanting to follow this passion and this drive, wanting to do something that's bigger than myself.
From someone looking on the outside, it's very admirable, number one, that you were able to challenge yourself for 365 continual days, and I'm sure at times there was obstacles that you had to face, either posting or maybe you might have forgotten something or whatever the case is, right? I'm sure you have your stories, right?
Definitely.
But the fact of the matter is that you stuck through it, right?
Yeah.
And this is a key thing that I guess I've also learned is that being consistent and persistent ultimately also drives possibility, if that makes sense, with everything that you did and the time that you invested and the challenge that you had for yourself, because you challenged yourself to improve yourself.
Yeah.
It created so much more for you. But I look up to you because I haven't had a 365-day challenge like that in terms of social media. So I commemorate you for doing that.
Thank you.
And this is great. And this is why this video and why this channel was started, to share everything that is happening from the point of view of our locals and the people that we work with, the friends that we have made, and the information that we've learned that can hopefully inspire and help you as well.
Excellent.
Is there anything that's on your bucket list within the next year, 2 or 5 years with your work that you're trying to?
Yes. Actually, for 2019, my goal was to do like exactly what I'm doing right now. Get the visuals off of the digital world and get them into physical world, like getting them on walls in galleries. because I feel that a lot of the content that I share, it's it's on a phone or it's on a computer.
Absolutely.
And I'm a person who's inspired by organic things like nature, which is the reason why I travel so much. I just absorb all of this from around the world, but I feel like it's important for me to not only just like say that I want to do something, but to live a lifestyle that kind of complements this passion, or complements like my drive and my motivation. So wanting to get the work on walls is really important to me, because I want it to be in the physical world where people can like touch, see, and
experience it with the sense.
Exactly.
With the physical sense. Yeah.
Right.
If there's any words of encouragement that you'd like to share, either one for someone that's wanting to follow a creative path, or just words of encouragement in general for someone that's similar to you in your field, or any just words of advice.
Sure. I would just say, do what you love at the end of the day, because you're gonna spend most of your time doing that thing, and you wanna live your life, not just like breathing, but actually living. I came across just like some video the other day that was discussing like what life is, and they were discussing like the person being on like in the hospital on the deathbed, and it shows their heart rate. And like a flat line obviously means like you're not alive, your heart's not beating. But like seeing the ups and downs, of that reading shows you like you're living, like that's what life is. There's gonna be highs and lows, but you don't want to trade that for anything. So just be prepared that you will have highs and lows, but the real like display of who you are is how you respond to both of those highs and lows. So just focus on that and be great. Surround yourself with greatness. Cultivate relationships that are gonna make you become what you want to become. I'm a firm believer in that the mind is probably like the strongest thing that we have. So being able to train your mind into doing things that you want is really important.
Absolutely.
So those are my words of advice.
Awesome, man. No, that's great. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Azeez Bakare. Where can people find you? Where's your domain?
Yes.
And where can they support your work besides the collection that's on CanvasFab?
Yes. So you can find me most active on Instagram, which my Instagram page is azeez.bakare, which is my first and last name. So that's my Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, same Azeez Bakare. And I am on Twitter as well, but I'm definitely more active on Instagram. All of the tags are the same, Azeez Bakare. You can go to my website, which is the actual business site, which has most of the 3D renderings that you might see. That is also www.azeezbakare.com. So you'll see a lot of 3D visualizations on there, along with drone videography and photography.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again. We appreciate the fact that you took the time to watch this. If you have any other questions or comments, please put them below. Azeez will get back to you. We'll get back to you. We hope that we can possibly meet again.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe have a little more in-depth about what you do, showing some behind the scenes.
For sure.
So once again, any questions or anything, put them in the comments below. Thank you once again for your support. Brian, Azeez, we'll catch you again later.
See you.